Story 1. Not putting myself out there due to fear of failure. Failure should be celebrated and encouraged as a tool to learn, grow, and improve. Story 2. My biggest regret is not starting exercise earlier. I thought people only exercise to lose weight, and I was convinced I was just meant to be overweight. In my 30s, I discovered running and volleyball, and now I am fitter in my 40s than I was in my 20s. I wish I had realized how much fun I could be having. Story 3. You do not think that you are going to feel those pains until you get older, but take my word for it, they come. I really wish that I had taken better care of my physical and emotional health in my 20s. Story 4. Not starting to invest in retirement earlier. Not taking more career risks. Not buying a house earlier. Story 5. I wish I did not let friendships die so easily. I am 36 years old, and you would be surprised how fast you can go a decade without talking to someone you once saw every day. Story 6. Not taking chances with various women throughout my life when I had the opportunities to. Story 7. 1. That I was a people pleaser. 2. That I did not seek help for childhood trauma sooner. 3. I played life way too safe. I wish I had taken more chances. 4. That I did not travel sooner. Story 8. 1. I regret the amount of time I spent hating my body. The self-loathing I had for my appearance consumed me. Now, when I look back at photos of myself in my 20s, I wish I could have seen how skinny I was. 2. I regret giving my ex a second chance after he cheated on me. He did it again, and the betrayal broke me, leading to self-blame and developing severe body dysmorphia as mentioned in point 1. Story 9. 1. I wish I had something to show for my hobbies. I play many instruments and write songs, but I don't have anything recorded. It seems like a waste to do it now, but it would be cool to have something to show that I am capable. 2. I stayed with a girl for too long because I thought it was my last chance to be in a relationship. I knew I didn't love her and that we weren't right for each other, but I wanted to get married and have children. So far, I was right about it being my last relationship, but maybe that was a self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't know. 3. I wish I had taken more pictures and videos throughout my life. I used to cringe when my mom took out her camera, but now I am glad she did, and I wish I had done the same. 4. I should have gone to community college and worked to save money. I would have traveled and spent time with my friends while trying to figure out what I really wanted to do. But my parents insisted that I go to a 4-year university and major in anything. How could a 17-year-old know better? 5. I wish I had started investing sooner. Story 10. I wish I had been more social and met more people during college. It is much tougher to meet people and make friends as an adult with a full-time job. Story 11. Letting a man treat me poorly, just allowing the abuse to continue endlessly. I was so drained and tired of it that I forgot what love was. I would rather be alone forever than be gaslit, manipulated, and made to feel worthless ever again. Story 12. Letting depression take 10 years of my life. I am aware that is my fault, but still. Story 13. I used to regret many things until I realized I cannot change the past. Now I do not. I look at things I used to regret as a life lesson instead. It is a work in progress for me. Story 14. I wish I had asked my grandparents more questions about their lives. Story 15. Being loyal to a company and expecting to be rewarded later. Story 16. Wish I had never smoked cigarettes. I gave up 24 years ago and now have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Story 17. Not taking antidepressants sooner. I am 33, and the last month was so easy without all the noise in my own head. Story 18. I listened to my teachers, parents, and coworkers throughout my teenage years. Now I am drowning in college debt for a degree in a job I hate that is barely paying my bills. Story 19. Bro, you were gonna blink and be here. I still feel 15 inside and do not have any regrets about my life like an actual old man might. Story 20. Letting myself get into credit card debt. Related. Not saving for retirement earlier because of credit card debt. I can't change my past and I'm on a better track now, but understanding time and compound interest makes me really regret past mistakes. Story 21. Not understanding how much difference 2, 4, or 6 years makes to your maturation in your 20s is significant. I shudder when I see 18 and 20-year-olds marrying, especially when one partner is much older. Story 22. Choose friends over a career job. Now I have neither friends nor a job. Story 23. I let hyperindependence stop me from forming relationships. It is actually okay to rely on other people and let them help you when they are offering. I also would have found a form of exercise I liked earlier. I only started at age 30, which I do not think is too late, but it would definitely have been more beneficial to start earlier in life. Story 24. 1. The amount of time I spent in my early 20s worrying about things I cannot control and waiting for others to initiate actionable change rather than doing the work myself in many areas. 2. Not spending more time with loved ones during a specific period of my life. 3. Not reducing alcohol consumption earlier. Story 25. Not staying at my grandmother's side the night of her death. I had been sitting there for 4 days and was exhausted. That night, some other family members were there, and I couldn't stand listening to their obnoxious talking. So I went home and received a call that she had passed shortly after we all left. Story 26. Biggest regret is probably listening to the people who said your 20s only come once and to make memories. My 30s are just as great and I have way more income to do the things that I enjoy for longer periods of time. If anything, I wish I had worked a bit harder to get a slightly better position so I could be doing even more fun things. Story 27. Always saying yes. I spent so much time doing what others wanted and trying to please them. I feel I never really lived my life for myself. Just say no. Story 28. Putting my money in money market accounts and certificates of deposit instead of a Standard & Poor's 500 fund. Story 29. Should have started programming earlier. Should have started playing guitar earlier. Should not have neglected exercise for so many years. Should have created a portfolio of high-quality stocks over 10 years ago. Story 30. Letting fear of the unknown stop me from following my passion when I was younger. Story 31. Wasting so much of teenage years and early 20s being suicidal. Story 32. Not learning how to truly and subtly yet confidently not care at a younger age. Story 33. Investing so much time into the wrong person. What she did broke me, and I am gradually putting myself back together, but I will never get that decade back. I overthink everything now, and I will probably never be able to trust someone again. I wish I were strong enough to walk away sooner. It would have saved me a lot of pain. Story 34. Millennials were told that we needed to go to college to get a good job where we would make good money so we could buy a house and support our families. College was pushed on us as the only option, and it had to be done right after high school. How else would we achieve the American dream? I like my job, but it is not a career. I do not make good money. I was finally able to start a retirement account in my 40s. I cannot afford a decent used car, let alone a house. I live in my friend's guest bedroom. We did everything we were told to do, and many of us have nothing to show for it. I am not denying the value of higher education. I just wish I had known there were other options. My goal is not to wake up at 40 with the bitter realization that I have wasted my life on a job I hated because I was forced to decide on a career in my teens. Daria Morgendorfer. Peter Gibbons. Our high school guidance counselor used to ask us what we would do if we had $1 million and did not have to work. And invariably, what we said was supposed to be our career. So, if you wanted to fix old cars, then you were supposed to be an auto mechanic. Samir. So what did you say? Peter Gibbons. I never had an answer. I guess that is why I am working at Initech. Story 35. Not investing in myself and doing what others wanted, not what I wanted. Story 36. Staying in unhealthy relationships long past their expiration date. Story 37. Not living my life the way I wanted to. Being pressured by parents to do what they wanted. I wish I had been stronger. Story 38. I wish I had left my homeland sooner and taken 1 year off work to travel. Also, I wish I had gone to therapy earlier, understood myself, and stood up for my values sooner. It makes a big difference in relationship dynamics. Story 39. Drinking for many years and not going to therapy sooner. Story 40. Not trusting myself more and not realizing my worth as a human being. Story 41. I cannot narrow it down, it is basically the whole thing, I think. Story 42. I should have focused on my money earlier. Now I am not sure I will ever own a home. Story 43. The fact that I did not open my own business or work for myself instead of these corporations. Story 44. Never living alone. I love my marriage and my life, but I have never had the time to truly know myself alone. Story 45. Not focusing on getting a successful job that balances money and life, something I can support myself on. I was a stay-at-home mom, did low-paying jobs when the kids were in school so someone could handle sports and clubs, days when schools were closed, volunteered for scouts and the parent-teacher organization, all of it. We rarely went out to eat, so I did all the cooking, cleaning, basic household chores, and mowing the lawn at least half the time. I love my kids, but the money I earn doesn't even cover necessities. Try being 45 years old, no degree, and no work history. Never be a stay-at-home mom without a contract or prenuptial agreement. Ladies, you bring the ability to produce life. It has to be worth something. Don't make the mistake I did. Story 46. I was afraid of rejection when I was in high school. I feared that if I asked a girl out and she said no, I would be laughed at by my peers. I feared that if I tried out for the volleyball team and did not make it, I would be laughed at by my peers. That is the biggest regret I have, that I did not try out for the high school volleyball team. It would have been a lot of fun. Story 47. Not studying hard enough, not having a long-term plan, and not taking care of my health. Story 48. Not buying a house when I was in college, apparently. Story 49. Not taking college seriously enough when I first entered. My issue was that I went to a very easy high school and did extremely well with little effort. I was not prepared for college at all, and I never pushed myself until it was too late. I thought my intelligence would be enough just like in high school, but I was wrong. Story 50. I did not continue with my organ lessons when I was a child. Now I want to learn to play an instrument. Could have been my career, but I was just a child and did not have a reference. I hope I can do it at almost 34 years old. Story 51. Man, you do not have that much time to read it all or for me to write it. Let me say this. I could cry for the time I have wasted, but that would be a waste of time. Story 52. Having regrets and not focusing on the present and future. Story 53. Not saving money. Stop spending on things you do not need or care about and save the money. Story 54. I wish I had come out sooner. I knew I was gay since I was 12, but thought I could maybe convince myself otherwise. I wasted many years of my youth pretending and lying to myself. Just beginning to date and have relationships for the first time in my 20s was difficult. Story 55. My major is mathematics and computer science. I really wanted to study physics, but the first year was very challenging. Story 56. Chasing someone for too long instead of focusing on being sober, maintaining a healthy diet, making more money, and being more in service to others. Story 57. Not buying a Radiohead t-shirt at the 1994 Reading Festival. Story 58. Not saying no enough. Now I can say no without an explanation or fear of being disliked. Also, I should have saved a bit of money when I was younger. Even small investments make a big difference over the years. Story 59. Not having a healthier lifestyle when I was younger. I smoked heavily and drank excessively. I find that my life is immeasurably better without those habits. Story 60. I should have spent more time with my children. I should not have been so annoyed some of the time. I should have held them more. I should have been more gentle and more loving. I do not think I told them I loved them enough. Now they are adults and they are wonderful, but I will never get back those years when they thought I was their world. Story 61. Settling. I married a woman who was fun to be around, but there were issues I ignored because I did not feel good enough for someone who met my standards. Story 62. Marrying the wrong person causes great pressure to stay because being single seems worse, leading you to ignore reasons not to stay. Being married to the wrong person is much worse than being single. Sometimes, by the time you realize it, it is too late. You can remarry, but the opportunity for the traditional nuclear family and life partner dream has already passed. Story 63. Caring about people who did not care about me. Not bonding with people or being scared of those who wanted to be close to me. Not taking every opportunity in front of me. I took most chances but wish I took 100%. Not forgiving myself when I made mistakes. Story 64. The amount of time I have spent on someone who does not care about me. Story 65. As a man. Not exercising, I was always skinny though. Not learning to sing, it was a bit considered gay for guys to sing where I grew up. Obviously, there is nothing wrong with it, but insecure 10 to 15-year-old me, who was also bullied, did not need more things that made me stand out. Played way too many computer and video games. Story 66. Not being recognized as needing grief or anxiety therapy when I was a child. Story 67. Not trying harder to further my education after graduating from high school. Story 68. Not looking after my knees and back. Seriously, I'm 39 and my lower back and knees are so painful that doing dishes hurts. If I don't do certain exercises every day, every joint in my body feels like it has Rice Krispies inside. Story 69. Not putting enough effort into school when I was younger and not playing sports. I think those years really shape you and give you confidence for the future. Edit to add. Not taking care of myself or exercising when I was pregnant with my children. Story 70. I should have listened to my parents more in my early 20s. Story 71. Staying in unhealthy relationships for too long because I did not want to hurt the other person. Story 72. Selling my Bitcoin after thinking I had done well by doubling my money. Trying to day trade in 2011 instead of just parking my capital in Amazon, Netflix, Google, etc. If I had just left it there, I would be retired now. Story 73. Letting my friends know who I had a crush on, someone I was going to ask out, or who I was dating. A lot of shady stuff happened behind my back with those so-called friends. Story 74. Letting bullies impact my confidence. I always thought men would think I am ugly and not like me. I realized many years later how much this influenced my life. I have no husband or children, and I feel this played a huge part. Do not let others determine your destiny. Story 75. To be kind to the people who did not deserve my kindness. Story 76. I am not physically active. I used to exercise between Grateful Dead tours so that I could see multiple shows, dance, and take acid. When Jerry Garcia died, I let myself go. Stupid. Story 77. I really wish I had gotten myself together sooner. I am doing well at 32, but I still struggle financially. I made some poor financial and life decisions that I have mostly overcome, but I would have been doing much better if I had cleaned myself up and not made those decisions in my early to mid-20s. I am very thankful for where I currently am, though, as I know there are people doing much worse who are older than I am. Story 78. Being wrapped up in purity culture at a young age. I wish I had experienced more exciting, intimate relationships when I was younger. Story 79. Damaging my spine working in warehouses for very low wages. Story 80. Doing an art degree instead of a business degree. I got the business degree later and am very happy I did. Story 81. Do not hesitate to cut off toxic people who constantly drain your energy and well-being from your life. Yes, even if you used to be very close. Yes, even if you feel like you owe them a lot. Yes, even if it is a family member or parent. Actually, especially if it is a parent. Story 82. I like my life a lot at the moment. So none, I guess. They all got me here. Story 83. Work too much and focused on work to the detriment of fun, friendships, and experiencing new things. I established myself and built my career, but at a tremendous cost. You are only young once. Enjoy your youth as much as you can and try to find a balance. Story 84. Wasting 6 years of my 20s in an abusive relationship still has repercussions for me 20 years later. Story 85. I had a string of relationships that each lasted years and all ended very badly because I was not mature enough to know when and how to leave them. I wish I had listened to myself. Story 86. Neglecting my teeth. I had great teeth when I was young, but I never went to a dentist or flossed. They started breaking off in my 40s. I still did not go to a dentist out of embarrassment until I could not eat. I just had a traumatic procedure done to fix them. Story 87. That I did not take the opportunities one should have when I could have. Story 88. Not thinking about or understanding financial matters in my early 20s. Story 89. Listening to others' opinions and not taking them personally in life. Story 90. Not finding the one now. I am 40 and single, and everyone I know is married and has a family or a child. Story 91. Allowing too many people to take advantage of me to the point where I truly suffered. Story 92. Wasting time on certain people. I know now that time is the most valuable currency you can have. Story 93. Spending a lot of time thinking about regrets and things I could have done differently. At some point, you just need to accept the life you have made. If you can change your circumstances, great, but you cannot change the past, so why dwell on it? Story 94. Not saving money and instead spending it. Being naive about some friends who were not truly my friends. Story 95. At this moment, I would say not becoming financially literate and not starting to invest early enough. Story 96. I read too much into spoilers and ruined Avengers. Endgame for myself. It is the biggest regret of my life. Story 97. Going to college is a waste of time and money as an artist. Everything you can learn in college, you can learn online faster and better, as long as you have the time and discipline. Story 98. Worrying constantly about things that did not happen and spending money foolishly. Story 99. Not trying harder to get into a relationship during college and high school. I wanted to avoid a long-distance relationship and thought I would have plenty of time to pursue one after I graduated from college and settled professionally. I think I missed out on some experiences because it is definitely an area of my life where I have been struggling. Story 100. Honestly, sacrificing everything to care for my mother from 18 to 25 only to be kicked out by my sister, who had power of attorney, 1 month before she passed. It has been 12 years, and I have just started working through what that did to me. Story 101. Waiting to start my life until I thought my body was perfect. Story 102. I think it is a bit early to have life regrets at 31. Everything still seems ahead of me. I may be a bit naive. Story 103. I have no regrets. I made mistakes, some of them horrible, and I chose to learn from them. That is all. I cannot change the past, so regret serves no purpose. Story 104. Staying in a relationship where I clearly was not wanted anymore. Story 105. Drinking heavily in my 20s and early 30s. For anyone who needs to hear this, it is not normal to be intoxicated every single day. It may seem minor, but do not drink every day. This behavior is dangerous and far too normalized. Story 106. Spending too much time in a relationship that I knew deep down was wrong for me. If it is not an emphatic yes, it is a no. Story 107. Not taking a state job that includes a pension. There is nothing wrong with being a clerk for the county for 30 years and walking away with a $30,000 per year pension. However, you want to get in early. Story 108. I wasn't ready for a serious relationship until I was about 28 or 29. I didn't even think about wanting marriage or children one day. And now that I want them, it's almost impossible for me to conceive due to my retroverted uterus. I wish I had thought about these things earlier in my life. Nothing would make me happier than having a child who loves cats and animals as much as I do. I will probably never experience that, and it breaks my heart. Story 109. I allowed my father's fear to keep me from pursuing a creative career. Story 110. Staying in that relationship and not receiving medication sooner. Story 111. I didn't feel particularly pretty in my teens and 20s. If you are reading this and you are in your teens or 20s, trust me, you are really attractive. Don't look in the mirror and think about the ways you don't look like a movie star. Enjoy whatever you have, whether it's thick hair, unwrinkled skin, nice eyebrows and eyelashes, or generally being fit, because almost everyone else in the world thinks you look great. I feel more attractive at 45 than I did at 25 because I have learned to look for things about myself to like, not things to feel bad about. But when I look back at photos of myself from 18 to 30, I have to admit there was much more to like. Also, when people compliment you on your looks, they are not just being nice. They mean it. And if it is an 80-year-old grandmother telling you that you look good, it is as big a compliment as it is coming from the person you have a crush on. Sometimes 80-year-old grandmothers feel comfortable saying things that others are thinking but are not comfortable saying. Story 112. Teasing someone for buying an engagement ring from Walmart. What I would not give to undo it. I am so ashamed and I feel terrible. Story 113. I spent too much time playing video games in my 20s instead of getting my life in order. I had fun, but it was not worth it. Story 114. Mostly caring about what people thought, fear of failure, drinking too much, not trying hard enough in high school. Story 115. I regret how much alcohol I consumed, not only for the detrimental effect it ultimately had on my health, but also for how codependent it made me. I stayed in awful relationships for too long. Alcohol made me feel normal, so I felt okay not achieving my full potential. I did not look to better myself. I just had a drink and felt okay enough to continue. I became sober after having children, and I am really enjoying sobriety. I wish I had discovered it sooner. Story 116. Spending too much time on Reddit. I have sunk countless hours on this app for no good reason. It is funny because everyone on Reddit talks about how terrible and damaging other social media like Instagram is. I probably spend 15 minutes on Instagram in any given week. Reddit, though, hours and hours of pure unproductiveness or worse, actively interfering with sleep and work. Story 117. Not buying my grandmother's house for $70,000 in 2008. It is currently worth $310,000. I had the opportunity to buy it, but my former partner talked me out of it. Story 118. Over 30? If you are in your 30s, you are just getting started. This question should be directed to those over 60. Story 119. 30 is not old enough to really have regrets. Wait until you are 82 like me. I am running a wholesale high discount deal on regrets. Story 120. Worrying about what others thought of me in my 20s. I would have taken more opportunities that appealed to me instead of trying to please everyone around me. Luckily, I turned out okay and have a great career now, but I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I had chosen differently by following my own heart. Story 121. Wasting money on alcohol, cannabis, video games, junk food, fast food, and eating out. Had I been responsible with my money throughout my 20s and invested all of my disposable income, I would be rich today. I started 20 years too late. Story 122. Not really a regret, but I wish I had partied more in my 20s. I lost many family members in my 20s, so I spent most of that time in grief. I am 30 now, and it is never too late to go out and enjoy life. Story 123. All the years I spent single and in dating hell. It was not my choice, just how things turned out. Story 124. I think this is a theme in the comments. In my 40s, I stopped caring about what others thought. Now I am 53, and I see how many people pretend they know something when they do not. Their certainty should remind you that they are faking it until they believe they can succeed. My regret is not enjoying the present moment more as it was happening. I feel calm and peaceful every day now, but I only reached this state a few years ago. Story 125. Although I have 2 wonderful children, I am still looking for my life partner. I believe my children and I deserve to be treated with greater respect. Story 126. Not reading the Bible or not having people around me to help me understand it or even provide a reason why I would want to know it. I heard the phrase, you do you and do what works for you, and figured the Bible works for some, but it does not work for me. Story 127. Spending too much time drinking and partying and not enough time taking care of my health. Feels much better to be healthy. Life is so much more enjoyable. Story 128. I cared so much about what boys and men thought about me and spent a lot of time trying to have a boyfriend. There were many more valuable experiences I could have devoted my time and energy to besides dating. Story 129. Prioritizing work over relationships. Now at 36. I am trying to reconnect with old friends and find a life partner. Story 130, 38 years old. Working harder in my 20s would have given me a better chance to get into the housing market when it was slightly more affordable. Overall, I have landed pretty well, and maybe I would not be where I am today without the choices I made in my earlier life. Story 131. Listening to the wrong people is a common mistake. The best thing you can do at the youngest age possible is to figure out yourself first and learn to train and trust your gut instincts. Your instincts are almost always right. Story 132. I turned down my baby sister's request to play on the playground once. I was so foolish, thinking I had all the time in the world with her. Too blind to realize that would be the last time she ever asked me. Now she's 18. I try hard to say yes to everything she wants to do with me. Last time we painted together, and she asked me to make some crafts with her, so we did. But no matter what we do now, it never takes away the guilt of that one moment. The one time I didn't take her to the playground. The one time I let slip away. That weight never leaves me. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.